Yeah.
Brothers and sisters, the Dr. Don Radio Show, no judgment, just realness here on Raise the Praise 100, where we give you praise all day, every day. Brothers and sisters, you know how we do it. Many people are grieving. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. We about to have that real talk, that real conversation, as we only can do it here at Raise the Praise 100. You know, look, people are grieving, going through too much, putting a Band-Aid over a situation that needs surgery. That's not going to do it, y'all. We got people about to break, and grief is what a lot of people are going through. Thank you for listening online on raisethepraise100.com. Thank you all who are listening through the Raise the Praise 100 app. And thank you all who are watching us via StreamYard. We are about to get into this conversation. I have to give this sister a proper introduction. Y'all know we can't bring anybody on the Dr. Don Radio Show raggedy any kind of way. We are talking about coping with grief, a wake-up call. And this sister, she's been on here before. If you do want to put your comments in the StreamYard, feel free to go ahead. And I'm sure Mona Lisa will be happy to answer them, brothers and sisters, because that's what we're here for. That's what she's here for. She's the expert on grief and many other topics, but she's talking about grief today. But we have Mona Lisa G. Bryant. The G stands for giving it to you, just real, I guess, giving it to you good. I don't know. Hey, but she is a licensed professional counselor. Those who are watching on StreamYard, you see her shirt. She is a dope therapist. She's a mental health professional just doing God's work. She's with the Masterpiece Wellness and Consulting PLLC. Let's welcome Mona Lisa Bryant. How are you, girl?
I am so well. Thank you to Dr. Don for having me here today.
Honey, look, I tell you, no judgment, just realness. And what an amazing segment we had last time, right? A year ago. So we got to just do it, Mona Lisa. Now, how have you been? Because you're so busy helping other people. How are you?
I am okay. You know, COVID, there was a lot of burnout there.
Okay.
You know, a lot of grief for a lot of people, a lot of
Yeah.
loss in the last 2 years. And so even for myself, I've taken a break in some areas, slowly picking back up.
Okay.
But I'm doing well.
Yeah. And
It's
I
good
like
to
that.
hear. How
I
you
like,
been?
hey, I'm here too. There's some days that are better than others.
Absolutely.
Some days I'm like feeling good. Some days I'm like, I didn't get any sleep. I'm cranky. It's not going well. Look, during these past couple years, the money was funny a couple times, but he provides. Amen. We're not going to sit here,
Absolutely.
Mona Lisa, and act like, hey,
Life don't happen to any of us. Yeah.
Okay. But do
Mhm.
you, and this is off topic, but I'm going to talk about it before we get into it. Do you think many people are really struggling, but they're not saying it? Like when they're saying, oh, has every day really, maybe every day has been perfect for them during the pandemic. I don't know. Yeah.
Every day, even if it wasn't a pandemic, every day is never going to be great for everyone.
Yeah,
For
you're
anyone.
gonna, yeah.
We
And
all
that's
going
none
to
of
have
our
our days.
business. Yeah. Why do? I mean, this ain't got nothing to do with grief. We're about to get into that, but we can assume, but why, in your professional opinion, do people just put up a facade instead of being real about it?
I think I've seen that you recently talked about that as well. There's a lot of shame.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shame behind being real about the challenges that we're going through, showing up in a space and saying, hey, I can't be the person I usually am. Or even saying, like, I have a mental illness and that's just challenging to cope with right now because, to be honest, not everyone understands mental illness and the challenges. And I think a lot of it goes back to shame.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know how you say
And that's
hi to
not what,
someone?
Yeah.
And
And that's not what we're
sometimes,
talking about.
well, right, that's not what we're talking about today.
No. Go ahead. It was a pause. So go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just saying, you know how you ask someone how they're doing, and usually a person says, fine, I'm okay, good.
Yeah.
But in reality, many people are far worse than good or okay or fine. But does the person really want to hear what's going on in their psyche or what's going on with
Mm,
their bad week or their bad day or tribulations? A lot of
wow.
times people don't have the time or don't know how to stop and have a conversation about hurt. They just want to hear you're good and keep the day going.
Yeah. Or they'll tell you you're good. Girl, I know you're doing good. And then that
Mhm.
doesn't open the door for them to say, well, no, I'm not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
True.
Which brings us to grief. Uh Man, Mona Lisa, I tell you, before we get too deep into the conversation, give us, people who don't know, and as we share this on the YouTube channel, give people your credentials. Of course, we want you to share your website and all that at the end, but give us some of your credentials in this area before we get into the combo.
Absolutely. So I'm a master's level licensed professional counselor.
Mm.
I want to say I'm maybe 9 years in the field.
Oh wow.
Um, it's been a while since I've actually calculated just because
Yeah.
I've been so caught up in working so much, but maybe 9 years in the field. I'm the owner of Masterpiece Wellness and Consulting, which is a group mental health practice where we're essentially helping people with grief and mental health challenges that are being dealt with on a day to day basis in the community.
Mm. And I just love that name, Masterpiece.
Yes.
Uh, and the piece is spelled Peace. I think that
It
is
took me
great.
a little while to come up with the name, and the
Yeah.
premises behind it is I essentially want people to show up in the space that I have started and grown to master
Mm,
their peace and grow, and
wow.
that's where that name came from.
But it's a process.
Very much, just like anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a process. And that's why you do what you do. First question
Yes, ma'am.
I have for you. Now, we say a lot of things, Mona Lisa, and we mean well. Are we accurate when we say overcoming grief, or should we say coping with grief?
I think that essentially we're always overcoming something.
Mm,
In life, we're always going to be going through things, ups and downs, and there's times when we may not be experiencing those downs, and so we're feeling great. But uh, are we really overcoming something, or are we learning how to live with it, integrate it into our lives, which essentially to me looks like we're coping with it. We're
mm,
coping with it because essentially we're going to have triggers that lead to that grief or those
yeah.
mental health challenges coming back up. So do we
Mm,
overcome it or do we cope with it? I think we're
mm,
coping.
okay. I think so too. Because somebody can be gone for 10 years, but every
Mhm.
holiday comes up, that's a trigger. I wish
Absolutely.
grandma was here. I wish mama was here. Whoever the loved one was, right?
Mhm.
Or I mean, just anything.
Mhm.
Um, Anything, man, Mona Lisa. I'm telling you, has business increased? I talked to different therapists, counselors. They say business has just quadrupled, skyrocketed. What about for you?
It's very busy. It became busy. More people have been attending to their mental health, so
That's
that's
good.
great. But also, as I said when we initially came here, COVID, so many people and families have experienced tremendous loss that we can't ignore it anymore. But
Mm,
when we experience loss, it's real. When we're grieving, it's real. And people could no
mm.
longer show up in spaces at work while also trying to deal with death. I know some people w'ho've had over 10 deaths
Oh my
in
goodness.
2 years.
Oh my
It
goodness.
it's difficult. So yes,
10?
people are, yeah. Plus, it's been a lot. It's been hard.
Man, how does one deal? Okay, because we're talking about, if somebody has lost one person. Okay, that's hard enough. But how
Hmm.
does somebody deal when they lose so many people in a short time span? How is that process of healing? My goodness.
Honestly think that it it if we have one death, we're trying to deal with that one death. But when you pile on several, um, I couldn't
Mm,
imagine myself being able to go forward day to day for a while. But
yeah.
part of grief is everyone copes differently. Some
Mm,
people, immerse themselves into work so that they can avoid it. But what we do know too is avoidance doesn't help address the challenge, and it usually leads to complex grief.
mm. What is that?
Complex grief is when there's just a buildup, no addressing, and now it's very much more complex than if we would have attended to it when it happened or within that 6 months, a year piece. But someone not dealing with it for a year or more, you'd see complex trauma where a lot of more complexities have occurred within that individual or family's life because of that grief and that trauma.
Mm. We miss the triggers. How many? I mean, come on, Mona Lisa. So many people we've seen on social media, and how many people say, "Oh, I had no idea. Oh my gosh, I
Mm,
didn't know." You know what I mean?
mhm.
I didn't. I had no idea. We can miss the triggers. We can miss the triggers. Now, you just touched on something very important. Sometimes people are overachievers. They're working extra hours. They're trying to avoid it. We think she's good because her business is booming. She's at
Mm,
the office all the time. No, she's avoiding it. But we miss
mhm.
that. How can we recognize? What are some triggers? What are some things we should recognize?
I think a huge trigger is isolation. And so
Mm,
even when you think about that person who's overworking, they're overworking, but essentially they're isolating in many other areas of their life.
mm,
So isolation is a big piece, or a big demonstration of what it looks like that a person is experiencing grief. Um, Also, irritability. Um,
mm,
Usually you're going to find yourself feeling more irritable because you're trying to process a difficult and a lot of emotions. And
mm.
that in itself is difficult. Um, Anger, irritability, isolation. It looks a lot like depression,
Wow.
intense sadness.
Mm,
So what we can think about what depression and sadness look like, that's what we can imagine grief to look like as well.
mm,
Inability to sleep,
mhm.
issues or oversleeping,
Oh, wow.
issues with eating, under or overeating, um, not attending to your day-to-day activities or life as usual.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, but what if they're the life of the party? They like to have fun. Let's go out and have a good time. So we think they're good. They like to have a social life. Oh, she's good,
Mhm,
girl, because she's inviting us to go out to Papados.
mhm,
She's clubbing, girl. She's good.
mhm.
Can that be a trigger? I mean, I mean,
I think that individuals who may not be in the field
mhm.
may not understand that that's a trigger or that's alarming. That may need to
Okay.
be addressed. For
Mm,
the individuals who are used to going out with them, they like, oh yeah, sis living her best life. Things are going
yeah.
great. But
Yeah.
as a mental health professional, I'm seeing, wait, you just endured this huge loss. What's going on that you're out more? I'm wondering if you're
Mm,
avoiding things. I'm wondering if you're avoiding the fact that you're grieving or that your mental wellness is not at its best right now. And maybe we should address that.
yeah.
But someone who is not in the field may not 100% understand that or see that as a trigger. They see it as, oh, it's the life of the party. We good. When in
Yeah.
reality, no, that person is avoiding, and years from now, there's going to be ongoing issues related to not dealing with it.
Mm.
Yeah.
This is a question I don't know why I just thought of, maybe because we were talking about suicide. Do you
Mm.
see that grief impacts people? It's different types of grief when someone loses someone to suicide, as opposed to maybe an illness that they knew it was coming, or is just nobody ever prepared for it.
Who? I
Because when
think
somebody takes their life and you're like,
Mhm.
what? Is that different than, is it a different type of grief, or pretty much in your experience? What in your experience have you found?
I think that the coping looks different,
Okay.
but the grief is still grief. So,
Mm,
we have those stages of grief that a person is going to go through. They're absolutely going to experience those stages of the grief, but someone who has died by suicide, they
mm,
are maybe more likely, their family, their friends, even people who don't know them are likely going to be in a area of shock for a while. Um,
yeah.
because it's shocking to me, at least I believe, and even through my own experience, when we lose someone and we don't get to say goodbye, that looks 100% different compared to being able to say goodbye or knowing that it's coming. When
My
someone just
God.
leaves home for the day and then their loved one doesn't come back,
Yeah.
I think that's even more daunting. The grief is more challenging, but
Mm.
it's still grief.
Yeah, because there was that young cheerleader from LSU, or ever college it was, pretty young girl, and she wrote her suicide letter on social media or something. I don't know. I'd have to get that. But young girl took her own
Mhm,
life, wrote a long letter,
mhm.
basically, and it's just so sad.
It's very sad.
Uh, Mona Lisa, just so sad. I want to say hello to Lakeithia Leeden. Thank you, Faya, Yielded, for being on here. And if you have a question for our expert on grief, this is not a time where we're just gonna talk and and all that. We're gonna talk, but we're asking some real questions. And Mona Lisa is here. Her
Mhm.
time is valuable. She charges $1 million an hour, so I'm so thankful she's here.
Stop it.
Yeah, yeah. So when I'm telling you, anybody who gives up their time, I really appreciate it. And this is important, Mona Lisa. This is a topic you can't play with, honey. We cannot be playing around with. But this is another question. And if any of you all have a question, please, please, please put it in the comments. We
Mhm.
will read it, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing. No judgment, just realness here. But whatever you feel comfortable, Mona Lisa will be glad to answer. But talk about the dangers. Let's talk about the dangers of telling people, get out of your feelings. Because we hear
Mm,
that all the time, right? Girl, get out of your feelings and be tough.
mhm,
Girl,
mm.
you can make it. Girl, get out of your feelings. What do you
Especially
say to
in
that?
yeah, especially in our community because, there's this thought, God isn't gonna put you through more than you can bear. So
Mm,
you're okay. Get up, move forward, get out your feelings. You're gonna be okay. When in
yeah.
reality, that's not validating that person's experience.
Mm.
That person's emotions are very real, and especially if a person is going through intense emotions and doesn't have an outlet, I think that's why we see um, people getting closure, what they believe to be closure for them through ending their lives, no longer wanting to live because they don't have an outlet, or the people who they went to and think they can talk to don't know what to say, or telling them, you're going to be okay. Find it
Lord,
out.
Lord,
Hmm.
Lord. I was my women's church group. The topic was we had a professional counselor. She's a licensed counselor, and she gave a talk on mental health, grief, and she even said prayer with the Lord, but therapy and counseling. Okay,
Absolutely.
she knows you can't just pray it away, even as a Christian. For some people,
Hmm.
Mona Lisa, though, they can come out of depression. They have said, God help me get out of this. They didn't need therapy, they didn't need counseling, but everybody is different.
100%.
Get
hundred
that
percent.
therapy and counseling. And Mona Lisa, you're on my list of therapists and counselors that I send people to. Good evening,
Thank you.
Thesia. Good evening. How are you, Thesia? But and if you do have a question, you all put it in the comments and we'll be glad to read it. But yeah, Mona Lisa, you're on my list as well, of
Thank you.
mental health professionals. So we definitely have you on that list. So get out of your feelings. We've talked about that. We should not be saying that, and we have to watch our
No,
reaction, right? We need
absolutely.
to watch our reaction. Like, what if somebody's coming to you and they're suicidal, and and not that you can blame yourself, right? They were already there, but how we treat people, Mona Lisa.
I think if someone comes and they are at that time suicidal,
Mm,
the people around them have missed the triggers. They've missed the points that have pointed to this person no longer feeling like they can continue with life.
yeah.
If there was more attention to the person's emotions and their day-to-day activities changing, their personality changing, then I imagine in some instances, getting to the point of no longer wanting to live could have been avoided. But usually
Mm,
when it's gotten to that place, there's been lingering emotions there that hasn't been addressed and have been going ongoing for some time.
but it's sometimes we miss it because we're texting. Hey, girl, you
That
good?
too.
We're texting. How often do we get on the phone?
I'm guilty of that. I hate
Me
getting on the
too. Me
phone.
too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We live in a world now that keeps us so busy, so
Yeah.
stimulated by so many things, and then, being a working person looks
Yeah.
it can be strenuous here, in this life. So, you're right, not picking up the phone, not making time to connect, even if it's lunch, dinner, phone call, coffee, Zoom, whatever it may be. But also, I would like to encourage people to reach out because sometimes some people don't feel confident in reaching out to friends or family, and that's where that isolation come in.
Mm,
So not reaching out to helps to put that person in a space of more negative thinking processes and feeling alone. And the more you feel alone, the more you feel like, well, why should I continue?
yeah.
So reaching out
Yeah.
is a big piece as well.
Mm. This is something I'm interested to know. You being a therapist, right?
Hmm.
And your friend, I mean, you're in a circle of friends. You can see the signs in your friends. Uh,
I think so. Yeah,
yeah.
I can definitely see when friends or family looks different depending on how close I am with them. Like there are definitely individuals who I'm very close with and I can see when something has changed even if it was from yesterday till today. I can see that. But again, that's coming from me. I'm always analyzing things.
Yeah.
This kind of my life to analyze things. So I see it. And then I also even see it for myself. I can see,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, some days you wake up, you just don't feel good. I
You
can
just don't
notice that.
feel like it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes those triggers come up and you don't feel well, but we still have to get up and go through the day and act as if everything is okay. But in reality, not every day are we okay.
Mm. Does grief have a look?
Hmm.
Does grief have a look? You know, we see people who look good. Uh, does grief have a look?
I think that it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because it can look like many things. Look what we just said. You have some individuals who isolate, don't talk to anyone, to themselves, and then you have some people who are out and about, life of the party, and you never know deep inside, internally within their soul, they're going through grief. They're hurting. Um,
Yes.
so I don't think it has a look, but I think that's where, conversing, checking in with people, now there's this saying going around, check on your strong friends. We should always
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
checking on each other because you really never know. Looking at someone, you cannot tell that they are okay. Just
Yeah.
like someone can look healthy and appear to be healthy, and then, later have a physical condition that leads to them being in the hospital. It's no different for mental health,
Mm, that's true.
physical, physical health, mental health. It doesn't have a look. We can look great, but internally be going through a lot.
Mm. Let me read these comments. Dorita says, Dawn, you don't call me anymore. LOL. Dorita, guilty as charged, sister. Yeah, I need to give you a call. Hey, we got to call each other out, right? Again, we're so
Do.
busy, but Dorita, she might be saying it and we think she's kidding, but she might not be. So, Dorita, I will be giving you a call soon, sister. I will be
Yes.
giving you a call. Hey, we got to call each other out, right? Lisa, she must have been reading my notes. She has a question. She says, "Is there a time frame on grief? Does grief have a time limit?" That's a good question, Lisa. Thank you. Anybody else who has a question, Mona Lisa will be glad to answer. Mona Lisa, what do you say to that?
Absolutely. Time limit, going back to overcoming grief. We're not really overcoming grief. We're learning to cope with it because and integrate it into our lives because essentially we're going to experience triggers that bring back up their grief.
Hmm.
So, time limit, no, because like you said, 10 years, it can be 10 years that you've lost a loved one, but a certain date can come back around and you're right back thinking about that loved one or you're experiencing similar feelings that you had when that person left in the physical realm. Um,
Mm,
so we're gonna have triggers, it's gonna come back up, but as we heal through it, um, 10 years in the future, we shouldn't have those same feelings that we have, in year one.
so it shouldn't be as deep. You still may cry in 10 years, right?
Absolutely.
But
Mhm.
it shouldn't be that you shouldn't still maybe be dealing with depression 10 years later. It,
I hate to say should. Let me take that back
yeah, because I
because
even feel funny saying should. I mean,
yeah, like, ooh, that's hard. Um, the goal, if someone wants to show up with me to address grief, the goal is to help them integrate that loss so
okay,
that they recognize, yes, I've lost this person, but I also can give myself the permission to live,
okay, okay.
while also understanding that this person is no longer with me in the physical realm, but maybe an individual may develop a higher understanding that they're there with them spiritually.
Amen. Okay. So it's not that Mona Lisa is not saying you should not be feeling anything in 10 years. She's saying you're coping with it differently.
Yes.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, that's absolutely what I'm
Okay.
saying. We're
Okay.
learning how to cope with it. We're going to have triggers, but I don't want someone to think that, 10 years from now, why am I crying about losing my mother? Well,
Mm,
because it's your mother.
okay.
So it's expected to feel some type of way from time to time throughout the year. And some years you may be just fine, but some years there may be a trigger. And like Lisa just said, it comes in waves.
Mm,
It comes in waves. Some periods of your life you're doing absolutely fine, and then
mm,
some periods of your life it may be overwhelmingly difficult.
mm. And I love, Mona Lisa, that people are sharing with no type of shame here, right?
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Yes, love you back, Dorita, and I will talk to you soon. Right? Yeah. Now, if we get back together and a year later and I ain't called you, I just need to be whooped. But
Right,
I'll be
right.
calling you, Dorita. Don't worry, I'll be giving you a call next week. So, yeah. But thank you for that, Lisa. And I like that it comes in waves. Aware of triggers.
Mhm.
Do sometimes people not know that what triggers? Are people not aware?
Absolutely. If we haven't taken that time to sit back and I like introspection about how we're affected by the loss, then we absolutely can navigate through the world not understanding that we are triggered or not understanding the precursors that come before, the anger outburst or the
Mm,
acting out. If we know what our triggers are, then we can avoid getting to that space that we usually don't like to see
mm.
in relation to coping, trying to cope with the grief.
And I like what you said. It's going to be ugly. It's what you don't like to see.
Mhm.
You don't like feeling this way. It is that may be a trigger or whatever, right?
Right.
Or now, Mona Lisa, let's say this, and or let me take this question first. It might be
Okay.
okay. So Lisa has a. Are you reading this too, Mona Lisa? You can see this.
Yes, I see it.
Okay, so we all can see it, but let me read it for the those who are listening on the app or online.
Absolutely.
Lisa says one, and then we'll read Lakithia's comments. Thank
Oh,
you for. We're going to take all these, Mona Lisa. And like I said, I always pray, let the Spirit lead. So I believe, let us taking these questions is more important. So Lisa
100%.
says one of the challenges is people are quick with the saying, they're in a better place. They don't have to suffer anymore. They're in heaven. Don't cry. Sometimes that's insult to injury. Beautiful. Thank you for that, Lisa. What do you say to that, Mona Lisa?
I 100% agree.
Mm,
And I think that's, some people just don't know what to say.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We don't talk about grief enough of normalizing that grieving is a process. Instead, people experience a loss or a death, and then you get some people who don't know what to say, or they've been trained to say, like I said earlier, God not gonna put anything more on you than you can bear, and they're
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
better
yeah.
place. They're
Well,
outside.
hold on. Where one door opens, where one door closes. Is that it? That's not in the Bible. That sounds real good.
It sounds
But
good, but it
come
hurts
on.
to
Yeah.
that person who's
There's a rainbow on the other side or whatever. Girl, no.
hmm
No.
hmm
Lisa, yeah. But go ahead, Mona Lisa.
But like Lisa said, she said, I think we need to be taught what to say. And
Yes.
we do. We need to talk about grief more. And what that could look like is saying, I know this must be difficult. Let me know how I can support you.
Mm.
And when we're checking in with someone who has experienced a loss or is dealing with grief, asking them, how are they doing? Um, what do you need to feel supported? Because everyone,
Ah, that's good. Ask them what they need.
yeah, it looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone has different ways to feel loved. Everyone has different needs at times when they're going through the different stages of the grief as well.
Yeah.
So simply asking them what they need and letting them know that you're in my prayers, and what can I do for you?
I just love that. Ask them what they need. A home cooked meal may not be it. They might not even have an appetite, but they may say,
Hmm
I need you to go on a walk with me.
hmm
I need to, you never know. But Rick Warren, because his son took his own life,
Yeah.
Matthew, and he said he trained. And I don't know if you know this, but this is for people listening. He said he was telling pastors, because I guess they were like, "What do we say to people?" And he said, when someone is dealing with grief, he said, "Show up and shut up."
Mm.
He said, "Show up and shut up." Because sometimes we're going to say the wrong thing. Sometimes just giving hugs, just being there, they appreciate that. They don't need you to do a bunch of talking.
hmm
Just show up and
hmm
shut up.
hmm
But I like what Lisa said. We need to be taught what to say. Mona Lisa, have you done any type of trainings on that?
On grief.
On what to say, what should people say? Tell us some
Um,
things that we should say, or what should we do when we know
Not
someone's grieving?
necessarily training, but for me, it's simply having a conversation and asking, well, when they're experiencing the loss, letting the person know that I can only imagine how difficult this may be.
Okay, yeah.
So empathy, just
Okay,
empathizing with them,
that's good.
looks way better than trying to give advice.
Ah,
Because
yes.
when someone is saying they're in a better place, you're trying to give them advice because that goes back to you just want the person to feel better. But
Mm,
essentially, with grief, we need to experience those moments of sadness, of hardship, because that also helps us move through the process.
mm,
Avoiding that by having someone telling you they're in a better place, oh, you're gonna be okay, don't cry. Well, it goes back to you're not validating this reality that this person is experiencing.
yeah.
So simply saying, I can only imagine how challenging this is for you. I'm here. I like what you said that Rick Warren said.
Oh,
Be
that was
there,
beautiful. Wasn't it
yeah,
what he
be there and
said?
shut up.
Simple. Yeah.
Like sometimes that's all that person needs, someone just to be there. And you may find too that some people don't like to talk. Like
Yeah.
for me, I recognize when I'm having my challenging days or revisiting some of my grief or those moments, I don't want to talk.
Mm,
So I like that part with shut up because
yeah.
sometimes I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to ask people, what do you need from me? Because if
That's
you
good.
just show up talking and they don't want to hear it, well, we may be making their day harder instead of just sitting there and maybe just watching a TV show so
Mm.
they don't feel lonely.
But I like what you said. You said when we use these phrases, we mean well, but it's not validating their feel. They feel that's big right there.
Yes. They're
Yeah,
not trying to
that's
harm. They're not trying to hurt the person, of course,
right.
but you just trying to pimp the person up.
But
But
still,
that's not what they need.
That's right. And it's not validating their feelings. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let me read Lakithia's comment. She said it's been 4 years since she lost her Papa Bear, her biggest cheerleader.
Mm,
And she has a day at least once a month that she just weeps. And she says, and I don't allow anyone to pull me from that moment until I feel better. Amen. That's
yes.
good. That's
Good
good.
for you, Lakita. You
Yeah.
deserve that, and that's a necessity. It's a
Mm,
necessity. It's part of
that's
self-care because
that's
we go back to grief, we're gonna have moments where it comes back up. So we have to take care of ourselves in that moment. And
yeah.
sometimes it looks like crying. Crying is
Mm,
actually very healthy for us
yeah.
at times, as long
Yeah.
as it doesn't look like depression. But moving when you're moving through the motions, sometimes a good cry it releases a lot of stress.
Lord, Lord. And you know what? I like that because self care is not the spa day. Everybody, social media has made it seem like self care is spa, vacation. That's not
Mhm.
self care. For her, she said it's crying, just letting it out once a month. I like this
Right.
conversation we're having, very honest. Let's read Lisa's comment, and I'm going to read that for people listening. She said, I can be honest. When my son was murdered, I was wounded.
Mm,
Show up into a funeral and someone said, Why are you sad? Please don't cry. Hold it together.
wow.
My God.
Wow.
She was wounded. Somebody said, Why are you sad? Please don't cry and hold it together. Lord, Lord. My God, Lisa. She
So
said,
sorry,
sometimes
Lisa.
people need the gift of your presence. Oh, Mona Lisa, what do you say to that, girl?
Just being there. It's simply just being there that that person needs.
But
And that's why
let's talk about on the other side of that though. Because if someone is that, let's talk about the people who are in grief, who they
okay.
are encountering, they're grieving, and then they have to deal with somebody who's insensitive. How do they deal when that person is so? Should Lisa have said, "Are you? What should someone who's grieving and somebody says something insensitive like that, even unintentionally, they may have meant well. What do you say to them, Mona Lisa?"
Well, there's a lot of things you can say, and it depends on your mood at that time because
Yeah,
if you catch me in the wrong mood, I'm gonna tell you
yeah,
that out my face.
yeah.
That's absolutely the wrong thing to say, but
Or
being
and maybe if she said, you know what, I need you to get from in front of me right now. That's okay.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
But
Sorry.
but being that we said people mean well when they're trying to help in that moment, but if they're not helping, I think it's also okay to say, "Hey, I appreciate your thoughts for me, but at this time, that's not what I need to hear," and
Yes.
move forward.
Yeah. Theseus says, yes, that's good.
I'm
Hold
telling
on.
you
Lisa
all that.
said, and let me read this for those listening. Lisa said that part. I told them to fall back.
Mhm, mhm,
I mean, come on.
mhm.
We've got to be sensitive. What things do we do, Mona Lisa, we think are helping and they're actually hurting people? Now, yeah, we've talked about the things we say. Hopefully, this is a wake up call of what we say. But what else are we doing unintentionally that could be causing people harm
Hmm.
or depression? I don't know.
Definitely, definitely with those words that we just discussed, but also it can be enabling. That
Oh,
comes to mind. So enabling someone's behaviors that if they're coping in an unhealthy way with the grief, if we enable those behaviors, are we actually showing love to that person by enabling them? So
give me an example.
one of the other sides of grieving is, you're going through those challenging moments. Well, if someone, let's say, is becoming addicted to something unhealthy, we don't want to keep giving them what we already know isn't healthy for them. So let's
Mm,
say they're grieving with a loss and then they start drinking a lot.
yeah.
But you recognize when they're drinking, oh, they may be more bubbly. But
Mm,
when they're bubbly, we're feeding them a substance that's essentially helping them to avoid this pain. And that's going to lead to a bigger issue. So, as an example, feeding someone some alcohol, knowing it's not healthy for them and they're grieving, enabling can be challenging. What else are some things that?
Because what if they say, "Well, girl, I'm going to the club," and we go because we're like, "Well, she needs protection. If she gonna be out there drunk, I gotta cover her. I gotta be there
Mhm.
for my girl." What should you do then? Should you say, "I'm not going with you. You got to stop"? I mean, you have situations like that.
I think we need to confront our loved ones if we
And say,
recognize
"Girl,
that.
if you want to go ahead, and I'm gonna pray for you, but I'm not gonna watch you do this and just pray over them and pray it work." I don't
Exactly.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of goes back to the enabling piece. You
Mm,
don't want to enable your loved one to keep going to the clubs, knowing that they need to be coping and dealing with this loss. Um,
mm,
and and if challenging or bad decisions are coming from those behaviors, we need to be confronted. One thing about the people in my circle, they usually go let me know if I'm wrong. And one thing about me too is I'm very stubborn. But you need people in your circle to let you know when your decisions are not aligning with a healthy lifestyle.
that's good. That's good. Lisa says, "I tell people to feel the feelings, but choose the behavior."
Yeah.
Yeah. You agree
Choose
with
how
that,
we
Mona Lisa? What
react.
do you have to say about that?
Yeah, choosing how we react.
Yeah.
We everyone goes through something, but not everyone goes the same route to cope. So you have some people who may cope in a healthy way, and then you have some people who may cope in an unhealthy, or in psychology we call it a maladaptive method. So they find the unhealthy maladaptive ways to cope, and then they're choosing a behavior that leads to more issues.
Mm.
So yeah, we have to feel the feelings, but we also do need to choose how we react and behave to those challenging emotions that come with loss and grief.
How do you what advice do you have, because we've seen the funeral, people crawling all over the casket, all that carrying on, jumping in the on top of the car and all that foolishness. Sometimes that's because of regret, right?
Mhm.
Because they had a fight with Big Mama before she passed. Some people are dealing with regrets. How
Yeah.
does one deal with the loss of a loved one, and they didn't end on good terms? They're like, "I wish
Mm.
I would have said that. I wish." How do they come out, not only dealing with the grief but that regret?
The
Because
regret.
it happens.
Yeah, it can be a lot of emotions there, regret, guilt, shame. And that's when it's so important to see a professional to
Yes.
help process through those emotions, because usually if we don't deal with those emotions, that regret, that anger, that guilt, that shame, then those emotions are going to lead to the maladaptive coping techniques. And also, I
Mm,
want to address too that grief is not only loss through death.
okay.
We also can grieve any type of loss.
Mm,
So it can be losing a job. It
hmm
could be losing a house, losing
hmm
the stability of where you live. It could be losing your car.
Yeah.
Uh, any loss that essentially changes your day-to-day life
A
is
divorce.
a divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah, a divorce. Moving to another state, that
Mm,
you losing family.
yeah.
Even, deciding that you need to let go of family members or individuals in your life because they're toxic, but they're still living, but they're toxic and you decide to separate. You're gonna grieve
Yeah.
friendships. You're gonna
Mm,
grieve family members that you lose that's still here, but you're no longer having a relationship with them. So grief
mm.
comes in more ways than just death. But when we need to confront those challenging emotions, that's when a professional needs to come into play to help process through those emotions. And that takes time. It's not an overnight situation to process regret and guilt and shame.
Because how many times, Mona Lisa, have we heard people say, "Oh my gosh, I wish I would have answered the phone," or
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, I can't believe we had an argument and then they died. I feel so bad." Yeah, you need a professional to help you work through that,
Absolutely.
because they're no longer here, and you wish you could say, but you can't. Mona Lisa can help you with strategies to help you through that.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And then a job loss. There's nothing wrong because people are like,
Yeah,
why are you crying? God will bless you with another. If that person, maybe that their identity is what they've done. I mean, you don't
absolutely.
know. So yeah, a job loss. That's interesting because it's
Mhm,
tough. And sometimes it's not just, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my bills? It's maybe their
mhm.
identity was in their job.
Mm,
We don't know.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
And
let
a lot of
yeah.
times we do have to identify our job is the way that we're able to pay our bills. So losing a job is a tremendous loss. And sometimes it's not, just getting another one. Sometimes jobs don't come that easy, or the
That's
income
right.
of the same job that was lost doesn't come that easy. So yeah, grief can look um, more than just death.
Yeah. Lisa says that's the what if stage.
Yes, the
Yeah.
what if stage. And so that's the bargaining stage,
Hmm.
where a lot of people want to bargain with God or whomever they believe in, believing that if I did this differently, then this wouldn't have happened. Um,
Mm,
that's one of the stages that we go through when we grieve.
mm. What is the and we done had this conversation for almost an hour. What is the definition of grief?
Oh, you
Or is
know,
it many or you know?
if I had to make it the most simple, I would
Okay.
say loss.
Okay.
Um, 'Cause it's losing anything.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but I honestly did not look up a definition, so I'm coming off the top of my head right now. Um,
Okay.
but anything that you lose that changes your perception of your reality,
Hmm.
um, that's that's grief.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah. And loss. It could be like you said, job, divorce, a spouse, even a dog, a pet. How many times?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Mhm.
because if we see now, Mona Lisa, you can get your dog cremated. They have an aisle in the card store, a section in the car when you go to
To
the
get your
greeting
dog.
cards for the
Mhm,
loss of a pet. And I've even
mhm,
seen a pamphlet. I think I was in Petco or somewhere, how to deal with the loss of a pet. It's like family. So it
mhm,
could be a pet as well. Yeah,
mhm.
it could be a pet as well.
Yeah.
This is another question. Let me see, Mona Lisa. Okay. So we want the best for our friends and family, right? And this is a question I love to ask the therapists and counselors. And I always get uh, different answers, but great, great insight from all of you.
Okay.
We have a loved one, friend, family member. They need therapy. They just won't go. They will not go. They clearly need it. You can't make someone get help.
Mhm,
What do you say to that individual?
mhm. Well, I think it's important to remember what you just said. We cannot force them to get help.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to empathy, helping that
Mm,
person know that you are there with them, you're on their side, and more so,
yeah.
encouraging them to go the route of getting the help from the professional so that their lives can look different.
Hmm.
Um, but even with that encouragement, it's important to recall um, that's not an overnight decision to decide to go the route of getting the help. It may take weeks, months, years. Everyone is different based on the stage when they're ready to get that help. But
Mm,
simply just supporting them, empathizing with them, letting them know that you're there, and encouraging them to see a professional.
yeah.
Um, that's what you have control of.
Yeah. And then the therapist Danita Day, she was talking and she said, "You get therapy. You talk to a therapist if it's getting,
Mhm,
or maybe the therapist Mona Lisa can walk you through how to deal with this individual, right?
mhm,
Now, Mona
mhm.
Lisa, what do you think about interventions? When is that? If that person won't go to therapy, should we do a Jan Van Zant fix my
Mhm.
life intervention? When is an intervention appropriate or not appropriate?
There are professionals who are trained specifically for interventions.
Yeah.
And usually I like what you said. If someone wants someone to go to therapy, one of the best things you can do is go to therapy because
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
able to show them that you're going and what that looks like for you and the improvement that that's making on you. And maybe that will help your loved one who you recognize also needs to go as well.
Yeah.
But there are interventionists who can help with interventions. And there are, instances where intervention is necessary.
Yeah.
But, I'm not going to go into detail because that can look different for every individual. But yes,
Right.
interventions are real and are necessary in some instances.
Yeah.
If the person is, detrimenting their lives and let's say they have kids and they're hurting their kids, yeah, let's see what that looks like to discuss an intervention. But it goes back to, we can't force someone to get help. They have to be ready, they have to want it, and sometimes that's challenging to be on that side to see your loved one who could benefit from it but's not willing to take that route at that time.
Yeah. Lisa said, I like that. Yeah, an intervention. I mean, we've seen the TV show with the drug addicts, substance of people
Hmm.
who have substance abuse, right? We've seen the TV show, but in reality, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So don't think you're gonna invite somebody in your house. And I like what you said, an interventionalist,
Yes.
not just your friend who is a therapist. That may not be or bringing the pastor over. That may not be, and surprise, you need to get it together. That's not the best route.
Right.
It's not the
There
best
are
route
people trained for that.
because it's
And
gonna get ugly.
it is. It
It,
is. Because it would already be ugly enough for an interventionist to be needed. So it always usually, and that's what many things. I remember my chemistry teacher told me this one time. Sometimes things gonna get worse before they get better, and that's
mm,
especially with an intervention. Don't expect that person to come in there and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to therapy. I'm grieving." Mm-mm. No, it's not gonna be that easy.
well, in TV, I tell you, Mona Lisa, because we've seen shows, right, with mental health professionals and all of that, and we're not seeing the reality. Don't you? That's entertainment, and I hate to say it, a lot of
Yeah.
people are doing things for entertainment to make the money. That is not necessarily in reality how Mona Lisa or a real license, and not that they're not
Yeah.
licensed, but some people go another route for the entertainment.
Right.
Do you ever watch TV and say, "Why is this therapist doing this? They know
Mm,
this is out of order." Have you ever seen? I mean, what?
absolutely.
And you don't have to give us the name because I can tell some. I can. I'm thinking of, but I'm not gonna say. Call the
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I've seen it. I'm like, clearly,
No,
this is not
absolutely.
what you
There's
should be
so
doing as
much.
a professional.
Mhm. There's so much on TV that relates to what is depicted that us therapists do that it is not reality and it's not healthy. What's being seen on the TV to the public because
Mm,
that may be, altering people's perception of how us therapists really do show up in a space to help treat and help people move in a better direction for themselves.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, everything depicted on TV is not. Most things depicted on TV in relation to therapists is not what we are doing in real life.
Do you think that puts out mixed messages? Because here they are, they're licensed, they're credentialed, they're doing it. Is it putting out mixed messages, misinformation?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
essentially with TV, they're needing people to show up and watch. So of course they
yeah,
want certain factors to come up, and certain scripts to come up to have people to show up to watch the next episode. But in reality, um, that may be a detriment to the community who, when there's people who actually need to be following up
yeah,
for services.
yeah. Because there's no way, Mona Lisa, you can tell me some of this stuff. I'm like, I already know this is
Mm-mm.
follow the money. That's your business, right? I'm not judging you. But man, because I was asked to do to participate with the show, and I'm not going to say the name. It's not like it was Bravo or anything, but still, they asked me, and they
Understood.
said, "We really think you're a positive." I said, "Okay," because I'm a life coach, and they wanted me to sit down with two individuals that had they had some challenges with each other.
Okay.
And the first thing I said was, I said, "Well, because as I let the Lord lead me, right, Mona Lisa, popular ain't purposeful. Things look good, but
Mhm.
I put my credibility on it, right? And then God is why, and what's really going on. So the first thing I said, I need a clip of the show. I need some sample. I need some filming,
Let me
what you all
see.
have done
Mhm.
previously. And I said, then these two individuals, I'm thinking, did these two individuals know I'm coming? Because see, I ain't gonna walk in the room and y'all throwing chairs at me, right?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
let's be
They
real.
don't
But
want they don't want to see you.
right. Because that's not right. And Mona
Right.
Lisa, and of course, they never sent me the stuff, the samples, so I could review it. I don't know if they got somebody else. That's not my business. But I'm not about to I said, but do they? This is Mona Lisa. Come on, girl. Don't y'all let people use your name and good credentials, Mona Lisa. I know you're gonna be asking some questions.
Right. I was about to say, at least you asked the right questions. You asked the right
Because
questions.
spirit of wisdom and discernment will tell you.
Hmm.
See, they want the gift, and you know my personality, Mona Lisa. So I'm gonna keep it real. But come on,
Straight
Mona
to the
Lisa.
point. Everybody not ready for that.
Yeah, but we gotta have the spirit of wisdom and
Discernment.
discernment. Come
Yes.
on, y'all. I'm like, do
100%.
these two individuals know that I'm coming? I'm thinking because I'm not about to walk in and lights, camera, and then you can't control the situation.
Right.
So you just let's be mindful. But
Right. It
Mona
needs to, if
Lisa,
it's not sitting well in the
seriously.
spirit, it's not really beneficial for the soul.
Yeah, you gonna have me walking in and they throwing chairs at me?
Right.
Nah, you ain't gonna do that.
Nah.
Mona Lisa. Okay, so let's talk about the message. What is your wake up call to the community, to us, to the world when it comes to grief, mental health, whatever you want to say?
I think that it lets realize that fear and being afraid is normal. That's part
Mm,
of the human experience. But also, what would ask yourself what it would look like if you worked through those fears and being afraid and decided to follow through on seeing a professional.
mm,
And imagine what your life could look like sitting with someone who is supporting you, not judging you, but helping you move to a different realm of living.
yeah.
So it's okay to be afraid, but don't be afraid to follow through on seeing a professional when yourself or people who love you encourage you that is needed.
Mm, yeah. That's good. Anything else you want to say? Anything else on your heart? It's so much, right?
It is. It is. I think we had a great chat.
Yeah.
We had a
Honey, y'all got an appetizer, main course, and a dessert, right?
great.
Hey, I'm just telling, like I told you, but like I told you people before we start, we give you gonna be full when you leave the Dr. Dawn show and any show you listen to on on this station, because that's how we have to do, Mona Lisa. Now,
For sure.
brothers and sisters, let me tell you this. I always tell you, send me a DM, send me a message, email me, and I will give you a list of therapists and counselors. Mona Lisa is on that list. But because Mona Lisa, I'm a certified life coach, my nickname's the Dr. Dawn. But I love bringing the experts on because coaches, therapists, counselors don't do the same thing. And even though you're maybe a relationship therapist, that doesn't mean you can help somebody in grief necessarily, right?
Mhm.
Everybody has a lane. Um,
Right.
and that's just what I love. I love, love, love. Give us your contact information. Where can we find you? How can people book a session with you to get started? Give us all that good information.
Yes. My name is Mona Lisa Bryant, and of course, you can find me on Google. No, I'm joking. But you can find me on
Yeah.
Instagram at Masterpiece Wellness, Facebook, Masterpiece Wellness and Consulting, and then, of course, Google Mona Lisa Bryant or Masterpiece Wellness and Consulting. And we are able to service clients in the Texas region and we are virtual at this time. So there's also no excuse to not follow through. We also have professionals who are available pro bono. So I'm starting a program and attempting to make it feasible to where if anyone needs therapy, they can't say it's not accessible. So the service is there. We take all major insurances, and our phone number is 346-444-9038.
My God, this has been a power. Lisa, she is a Christian,
I
certified
see
Christian
that.
counselor and life coach. She says this has been so powerful. See, this is what I'm talking
Thank
about,
you.
people. Stop acting like you have all the answers and you're going to be the expert. Everybody's learning from everybody. We're
We are.
all just the insight here, Mona Lisa, has been absolutely powerful. And I
Thank
like that
you.
you said, because that was my question. What if their insurance doesn't take it? What if so the program, you have some pro bono
Yes.
counselors? Okay.
We
Okay.
do have therapists who are the service is discounted to $30, and if they cannot afford that $30, it's no problem. They can get the service pro bono.
Amen. I am definitely going to share that with a friend of mine,
Okay.
because that is what that this individual had brought up.
Okay.
No excuses. My
Yeah, no
God.
excuses. I'm trying to make it where I want people to be willing to show up to heal and their lives look different.
Mm. People are saying, and let me read this for the people who are listening. Excellent information. Thank you. Lisa said she was blessed. Absolutely phenomenal. You know when they say phenomenal. And Lisa doesn't just say that about everything.
I appreciate you all for joining. This has been
Hey,
a great experience for me too.
wasn't this powerful?
It was.
I'm
It
telling you.
was. Thank
I
you so
almost,
much for having me again.
hey, don't forget, because let me tell you, Mona Lisa, I told her this, and you know, if I say it publicly, people, I really mean this. I don't just say it privately, I say it publicly. Um, Mona Lisa does other things as well. I didn't know she talked about relationships in other areas. So we're going to have her back to talk about some other things. Don't forget to email me because as other topics come up, we can put you in
Absolutely.
the pot,
Okay,
in the gumbo
cool.
we got going on. Lisa says, what's challenging that are people not willing to invest in their wellness?
Mhm.
Now
Mhm.
there's no excuse. There's no
Mhm.
excuse. So Mona
No
Lisa,
excuse.
when people tell me money challenges, I'm going to send them on to you.
Appreciate that. That's what
Yeah.
we are here for.
Hey. And hey, it's covered either way. That's none of our business. Just get there and get some help. Now, how do
Exactly.
you know? Like, what if somebody says, "Well, I can't afford." How do you know? Or
If
do you
they
even, or do you even not care and you just say, "You know what? Let's
No,
just."
we're not checking.
Okay.
But some companies they do want to check your income. They're not even checking that. Like either you can pay the $30 or you can't. And if you can't, no questions asked. Still show up, get the service, heal, feel better. That's all I care
Okay.
about.
Okay. Okay. Lisa
Hmm.
says, please have, yes, please do. Hats off to Mona Lisa. She's so relevant. All right, Mona Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Hey, kudos from Lisa. Oh, God bless you, Lisa. She called me queen. I love that. Queens support
Yes.
queens, as I always say. Mona Lisa, sister, God bless you. This has been a powerful conversation. We'll see you again, and it won't be a year.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh, hold on. She's referring, Lisa, uh, Mona Lisa, if you would do me a favor, put your information in the comments.
You
So the
know,
people, can
I
you put
don't
it in
see where
there?
I can type in here.
Oh, you can't. You know what, Lisa, I will send it to you. Don't worry, Lisa. After this, I will send you that
Mhm.
information. So don't worry, you'll get that.
Absolutely.
So we'll make that happen. Don't worry, Lisa. You'll get that information.
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters, Mona Lisa, I want to say God bless you, girl. God bless you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have
God
a
bless
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.
You too.
Thank you,
We'll
sister.
be in
I'll see you
touch.
soon.
Yes, ma'am. We will be in touch.
Yeah.